Hello and welcome to the Arise interview, where we take time to reflect on the big stories from the news and on the fortunes and affairs of the world in an half hour of conversation with commentators, analysts and thought leaders. I'm Somna Sambu. Coming up in the next 30 minutes, an assessment of Nigeria's economic policies under President Muhammadu Buhari, as some economic watchers say the country's economy has not fared any better. Others believe it has achieved some modest gains, considering the challenges in a global pandemic. From whichever prism you choose to look at it, the average Nigerian is concerned about the economic realities of today and expects more from a government that had promised to lift millions out of poverty. But that isn't the reality at the moment. It further raises questions on the patterns of policies, decisions, actions, and implementation mechanisms by the Buhari-led administration. And later, given the cost of housing in Nigeria and even sub-Saharan Africa, the country's government says it is set to construct 300,000 housing units across the country for low-income earners. It falls under President Buhari's economic sustainability plan to deliver affordable housing and millions of jobs for Nigerians. However, it sounds ambitious, and many are wondering how this will be done. We'll speak to a presidential aide. Nigeria, Africa's top oil exporter, has an unenviable reputation as the world poverty capital, having about 40% of the country's population living on less than $1 per day. Twice now, under the administration of President Muhammadu Buhari, the country has slipped into recession. There are question marks around the type of economic policies being put in place by the government. Reports out there show that food items have risen steadily in the past 5 years, considering Nigeria's decision to close the border, a move it has partially revised. The Buhari-led administration came with mouth-watering promises of diversifying the revenue base of Nigeria into non-oil revenue sources with a focus on agriculture, mining, and exports. Well, how far have they fared? To get a broad perspective of these issues, I'm delighted to be joined by Aguri Ngelale, the Senior Special Assistant to the President Muhammadu Buhari on Public Affairs. Good to have you, SSA.
Truly a privilege to be with you. Thank you.
Yes, and Nigeria is in its second recession. There have been lots of economic policies, Anchor Borrowers Program, which helped to rev up the production of rice and all of that. We've also seen the economic sustainability plan, the economic growth and recovery plan and all of that. Yet, it looks like the currency keeps nosediving. It looks like the COVID-19 pandemic has affected the economy very well. What exactly is happening, and how is the government tackling all of this?
Thank you very much, Sumner. Let me start from the understanding that we are not operating in a silo, as you know. We are operating within a global context, one which has been racked by the effects of COVID-19, the impact it's had on global supply chains, and obviously, by extension, the global economy. If you look at world currencies all around the world, including the mighty US dollar, you would find that there has been substantial depreciation. The Naira is no different. And one of the major challenges, obviously, when you are in a situation where you have a revenue crunch as a result of the fact that we are a petro economy in large part, and obviously with the impact on global supply chains, you're obviously now having the adverse impact on the global oil price, even though in recent days, in recent weeks, rather, we've seen a rebound. Yes, we're now looking at about $50 or $51 Brent crude, against which our petroleum is measured. So things are certainly on the up and up. But I think it's really important to note that when all things are equal, you're assessing your economy on the basis of growth, right, naturally. But we know that things are unequal right now, and we know that in view of a global recession, you're really measuring your economy against how bad things could have been, as opposed to how good things necessarily will be. So where we are right now is obviously we reported a -3% a negative rate of loss of GDP. Now that sounds bad because that means we're in a recession, but when you compare that with our contemporaries, you look at what's going on in South Africa, where they've gone -50, you would know that -3 is a much favorable position to be in, and it also puts you in a position to be able to more expeditiously dig out of that kind of a recession. We still remain very optimistic that by the end of the first quarter of next year, we would have dug out of recession. We'll be back to positive
I mean, some
growth.
of your people in government have been calling this a technical recession.
Absolutely.
Can you explain why you keep using that term?
Well,
Nigerians all know we're in a recession.
No, we are in a recession. There's really no doubt about that. I think anybody attempting to sugarcoat it would be making a mistake. Certainly from our administration, we've been very transparent about the fact that we are in a recession. And our job is to ensure that our people understand exactly what the global situation is, against what context are we operating, and what we're doing to dig out of it. And I want to just be very, very clear. If you look at the fact that we are at -3 as opposed to -50, it's not by magic, it's not by prayer alone. It's by the effective and diligent work of this administration.
And what are those works? Because people just want to see the effect of the policies you're putting on ground.
So for example, and this is just one example out of so many. Recently, you recall, we put in place the Survival Fund. This is a fund we put in place to essentially bail out Nigerian MSMEs, micro and small and medium scale enterprises in the country, who, because of COVID-19, are unable to pay the salaries of their workers. In fact, many of them were on the cusp of firing their workers. What we've been able to do is, by leveraging on ICT, we've been able to get money directly into the hands of employees of these MSMEs, so that we take the burden off of the entrepreneurs across the country.
And what we want to ask, how does that work?
Well, how it works is we have been able to get payments out to approximately 400,000 Nigerian employees across well over 50,000 MSMEs across all states of the Federation. What happens is we put together a web portal where MSME owners can essentially register. They would now have to provide verification, because anybody can say anything on an application form. They provide verification proving that indeed they do operate an MSME, that they do pay X, Y, and Z number of staff, X, Y, and Z amount of money, and on the basis of that verification, once their application is successful, we don't pay the owner of the MSME, we pay into the accounts directly of the employees of the MSMEs, because we're more concerned about the base of the economic ladder in the country than we are about the middle. That's exactly right.
Now, let's talk about the border reopening. We've seen President Muhammadu Buhari asking that the borders should partially be reopened and all of that. Has it now put to test his earlier assertion that if only we close the borders, we'll grow our economy? Does it now mean that he has realized that if we don't leave the borders, the country will continue to go into recession?
I think this has been a fundamental mistake of public analysis of this issue. The notion that because Mr. President has now opened the borders, he's now somehow admitting that what happened before was a mistake. That's not the case. What it does mean is that we have made substantial progress in ensuring that our erring neighbors and the multi-billion-dollar cartels that were operating these illegal smuggling rings, bringing in items imported through their own ports across our border into our markets at the detriment of our local manufacturers and producers, that is put to an end. So we've been able to put those mechanisms in place. So what it does mean is we've been able to check those illicit flows, and it also means that we are quite contented with the fact that right immediately after a border closure, what happened within that same month? That was August 2019, if you recall. By September, we had seen a near doubling of our revenues from the Nigerian Customs Service, what they were reporting at the ports. Why? Because those illicit smuggling rings were now forced to do what? Exercise and conduct legitimate import operations, paying levies and duties to the federal government of Nigeria, which of course have proven very vital in terms of putting us in a position where we can support the economy during COVID-19 instead of having -10, -50% like some of our friends on the sub-region and across the continent. We're at -3. So I think if you look at all the evidence, from the increase in revenues to the effective cooperation we've now received from our ECOWAS neighbors, now that they know that we're not playing games with them, you will know that we've made progress.
They know that President Buhari really means business.
Absolutely.
Right now.
And he did what no other president was ready to do.
Well, the African Continental Free Trade Area Agreement actually kicks off from Friday.
Right.
What are the expectations? We should be looking forward to open border trading with other African countries and all of that. How do you think your government can actually make use of this to rev up the Nigerian economy?
You know, one of the things I'm really happy about is that you've raised this because the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Agreement is actually itself a huge reason why President Muhammadu Buhari's decision to close the border with ECOWAS, to make that point against illicit smuggling of goods at the detriment of our local production and manufacturing, it makes the point very clear to all of our friends across the continent that in view of the implementation of that agreement, Nigeria is not going to be treated in any fashion that is wrong.
So despite the open borders, it has to
Absolutely.
be rules.
We're not going to tolerate subversive activity.
Well, that's interesting.
We have the market, but we also have the most gifted entrepreneurs, the most gifted manufacturers, the most gifted processors and producers. And even when you talk about arts and culture and ICT and fintech, we're amongst the leaders on the entire continent. Particularly, you go to Lagos and look at what our young people are doing in financial technology with e-payment systems and all of that. You know that we are the future of the African economy. We're already #1 in Africa in terms of GDP by a long shot now.
Yeah, which is, I mean...
by over $100 billion
which is something that the government should take credit for. I mean, we are 26th largest economy in Africa,
and that wasn't the case before.
Across the world. I mean, and still number
well, not
one
only
in
that,
Africa.
not only that, my brother. What was the report just last week that Nigerian Stock Exchange is the highest performing stock exchange, not in Africa,
very well,
in the world, in terms of return.
Yeah, but the thing is that a lot of people will say they are not seeing the impact on the streets.
No. Well, there are two different things here. First of all, obviously, when you're talking about the stock exchange, you're talking about the top of the food chain, right? These are the people who are running companies, who are investing in companies. And remember, companies are not filled with ghosts. They're filled with employees. These are Nigerian families, a minimum wage to middle income workers that are employed within these organizations that are on the stock exchange. So it does come down. But the key issue is this administration is the first administration in the history of the nation that is not fixated on the top of the ladder. We're not fixated on making sure that the rich are doing well, and that's all. We're fixated on making sure that social justice is an integral component of our economic planning process. And
so in other words,
we have to get money, and to make it very simple, we have to get money into the hands of our people at the base of the ladder, and that is why it is this administration that has brought in place the social investment programs that have impacted the lives of 15 million Nigerians.
Well, a lot of your critics actually saying that these have been political gimmicks here and there.
No, but I mean,
it should be creation of jobs, lasting jobs, not giving people 10,000, 20,000.
My dear brother, see, when you're looking at...
all right, just hold your
we have to
go on a break.
Right.
When we come back, we'll continue. You're still watching the Arise interview, plenty more still ahead. Welcome to the Arise interview. I still have with me here now Aguri Ngelale, SSA to the President on Public Affairs. Just while we're talking, before we went on break, we're talking about how to get monies actually to the people on the streets, because lots of this economic progress doesn't seem to be trickling down. So what effort is your government doing, especially, for example, with such policies like the finance bill that was brought in place but had to be taken back to the parliament for amendment, which I heard, is meant to, create some certain incentives to boost businesses?
Well, first of all, let me start from the point where we left off, which was about the social investment programs. You mentioned that some people would say it's political gimmicks. That comes directly from the press release of an opposition political party. The truth of the matter is that in a political environment, those who had an opportunity to do what this administration is doing with much more resources than this administration has at its disposal will naturally be unhappy with the progress they've seen in terms of the administration of those social investment programs, which, as you know, have won international awards. I think, to be very specific though, what have we done? We have been leveraging on ICT intentionally to create an even playing ground where you don't have to know a minister or a senator or a presidential aide or the president to be a beneficiary of these programs. So for example, when we did Trader Money, which obviously put money directly into the hands, zero interest capital, into the hands of 4 million petty traders in every geopolitical zone, in every state of the federation. That was done by putting the money directly into their accounts via digital payments through use of BVN. We even went to the point of enrolling them into BVN and having them register for bank accounts, etc., so that we could remove the middleman. If you look at what we're doing with the homegrown school feeding program, where we have 9.5 million school children children being fed Monday through Friday. Obviously, in the normal scenario where COVID has not come in, the president has just approved the further expansion of that program by 5 million. We're going to go up to 14 million over the course of the next 12 months or so. In addition to that, we're expanding the 500,000 young graduates being given skills and capital on Empower that have been gainfully employed on Empower over the course of the last 2 years, from the current 500,000 to 1 million. That was another program that people were skeptical we could implement until we implemented it, and then they now said we want more. So really, it's not about propaganda, it's not about grammar or big talk. It's about saying, look at what we have already done. Look at what we have already done.
Yeah, but they criticize you based on the ratio of the population. If you're just touching 2 million or 3 million persons out of
first of all,
20 million employed people.
But my dear brother, if we've just acknowledged that 15 million Nigerians have been impacted, is that 1 million? Is that 2 million? That's 15 million. That's a lot for 4 years, at a time when our oil revenues have been cut in half, and we're still expanding it. My point is that there's no doubt about the fact that there's a lot of work to do, and there's still a lot of road to travel, and we understand that.
And
we're very clear-eyed about that.
To conquer.
Absolutely. But the fact of the matter is, we have put more of a dent in that huge hole of unemployment and poverty than any previous administration, or in fact, I would dare say all the previous administrations of the Fourth Republic put together. I would challenge anybody to that debate.
Move on to other issues.
Sure.
Now to another mouth-watering promise, or rather a move by the Buhari-led administration to construct 300,000 homes across the country for low-income earners. It implies that low-income earners can become homeowners easily under the new National Social Housing Program initiative. It is the housing component of the President Muhammadu Buhari's economic sustainability plan to deliver affordable housing and millions of jobs for Nigerians. How soon can this become a reality?
You know, this is something we're very excited about. Of course, this is part of the 2.3 trillion naira economic sustainability plan, of course, chaired by His Excellency the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. Him and his team were able to design a social housing scheme. And of course, they are also charged with overseeing the implementation of the scheme, which is going to see to the construction of 300,000 homes across every state of the Federation, with every state having an equitable number of jobs and homes within their states. So it will be equitably distributed. But the most important aspect of this is that you have the 300,000 homes, but it's creating 1.8 million new jobs on its own, just this scheme alone. And I'm not talking about indirect jobs now, I'm talking about direct jobs. These are people who will go, these are Nigerians who will go to the website www.nshp.gov.ng. They will register for either a low-cost housing unit or a job. If you are a professional in the construction subsector, we are inviting you to go to that website and register. If you're an artisan, an engineer, an electrician, a carpenter, a plumber, a quantity surveyor, an accountant, and any of those professions within the construction subsector, please go and apply. So the way it's going to work is this. We are pricing the homes approximately at 1 bedroom for approximately 2 million naira, a 2-bedroom at approximately 2.7 million naira, and a 3-bedroom at approximately 3.3 million naira. And the key is that every component of this plan, to maximize the economic, multiplying economic impact on all sectors of the economy and down to the base of the economy, is every company that we're dealing with will be an indigenous Nigerian company employing.
But let's take a look at it. How really feasible is this at 2 million naira? Because I've seen private investors saying that the average which you can build mass housing in Nigeria is like about 4 million naira. And even your minister, Babatunde Fashola, has said it at a point in time that even 3 million naira, which is like about $8,000 or so, getting a house, an affordable house at that rate, it's nearly difficult.
Well, this is a fantastic question that requires an answer. See, the way it works and what separates it from previous housing development schemes is 3 major elements in terms of how we've been able to crash the cost without sacrificing quality, because quality is centered to this administration and the delivery of these homes. Number one, if you're a private sector housing developer, you have to go through a stage. You have to go through the stage of procuring the land from the land registry or state ministry of land from the state government, since they have the constitutional mandate over land use. Once you've done that and you've paid out good money to get that C of O, you are now thinking of how you're going to fund without any kind of lending help.
And that's where they've always had issues. They say the issue of land alone takes the huge chunk of money.
So that's why I want to address this very, very carefully. then you're now looking for the cement blocks and all the things to build the housing development. By the time you're done, you're now asking Nigerians to pay 20, 50 million naira for a house or a flat or whatever the case may be. What we're doing differently and where the cost is saved is, first of all, we're working very closely. His Excellency, the Vice President and his team have worked very closely with the state governors of the Federation through the National Economic Council and through the Nigerian Governors Forum. They've agreed to supply the land, essentially free of charge. So that land charge is out of it. That is not going to be transferred to the end user, the customer. Secondly, because of the innovative architecture of the scheme, we are engaging in a bulk purchasing arrangement. So, for example, we have already planned the end from the beginning, where we have 300,000 houses. We already know we're going to use approximately 1.5 million doors, approximately 1.8 million windows, and approximately 7.8 million door hinges and handles.
Without sacrificing quality.
So what this means,
because we have to ensure that the quality is good, so that it doesn't end up like the low-income housing schemes of the former administration of President Shagari.
This is why it's extremely important to note that because we have already planned all of this, we are already merging with the suppliers. So the critical component is the 1.8 million jobs are direct, but there's still going to be millions of more indirect jobs, because all of these items, the doors, the sand, the concrete, cement blocks, etc., all are going to be sourced from local suppliers across the country, being built within the states of the Federation. So very quickly,
how do you ensure quality in all of this, so that you don't have houses?
So now there's going to be a standard.
At the end of the day.
Very good. So there's going to be a standard, because we've already planned the bulk purchasing scheme from the local suppliers. We know exactly what we're getting. We know where we're getting it from. In addition to that, everybody's following the same blueprint. That means that the same house we're building in Yola, Maiduguri, Enugu, Abakaliki is the same house we're building in Lagos, Port Harcourt, and Kano, and every other part of the country. But it's not the same contractor
who's handling all of them.
No, that's not true, because we have a series of cooperatives in which we are going to now bring in the artisans and engineers from the Nigerian population who are going to be employing, but they're going to be vetted, first of all, for their experience and their competence, number one. Then secondly, they're going to be given a blueprint that's already set for them. So it's not a matter of whimsical effort to just build a house. No, they have to follow a blueprint that has been provided by the Family Homes Fund, which is going to be the off-taker that will now supply Nigerians these homes at the end of the process with low interest, almost zero interest mortgage facilities. So now, if you're a Nigerian minimum wage earner, and it's going to be according to what you earn. So if I earn 30,000 naira in a month, then I can expect to pay something like 15,000 naira a month until I own the house.
That's of the issue, affordability.
Affordability, and
because
we have already emphasized that.
Persons you're building these houses for, a huge chunk of them do not earn up to 50,000 naira in a month.
That's right, and that's why this program, that's why we're calling it social housing. It is not for millionaires and politicians and all of that.
Are you providing loans, soft loans?
So it's essentially like a mortgage, right, in effect. So the way it's going to work is we'll provide these homes on a rent-to-own scheme, where all they have to do, if you're a minimum wage earner, you earn 30,000, or you earn middle income, you earn 300,000 or 500,000. Then what you do is, after you apply, you would have now sent in, just like the survival fund, you have to verify what's on your application. You can't just say you're at a certain income level. You have to prove that this is your income, it's sustainable over a period of time, so that we have the assurance that indeed you can afford the monthly payment to own the house over a period of years. So now, you pay according to what you earn. If you earn 100,000 naira, then you can afford to pay 50,000 naira a month. If you earn 30,000 naira, then you can afford to pay 15,000 naira a month. But it is dedicated to the minimum wage and middle income earners in this country.
All right, well, I've been told we have to go on a break right now. Well, stay with us.